Hey there, my name is Megan Woodham, and I am the Children's Ministry Director at First Baptist Church Prattville. And I am here with you today to talk VBS Leader Appreciation. Now, I have been on staff at First Baptist Prattville for about 9.5 years. So this upcoming VBS, our destination dig, will be my 10th Vacation Bible School. But not my 10th Vacation Bible School ever, just here. I've served in Vacation Bible School for about 20 years maybe, and then been a part of Vacation Bible School for anywhere between 27 and 28 years. And so I have a lot of VBS experience on all sides of VBS. But as most of you are watching, as directors, you probably were a leader before you're a director. And so we all know how important it is to appreciate our VBS leaders. We want them to know that we love them, we appreciate them, and of course we want them to keep on serving. So today, in our time together, we're going to talk a little bit about ways that you can appreciate your VBS volunteers. And I want to debunk the myth that all VBS leader appreciation is gifts, that you have to spend lots of money and lots of time to appreciate your VBS volunteers. That's not necessarily true. We are going to talk about gifts, and I'm going to give you some cute ideas that you can do towards the end, but I want us to talk about ways that we appreciate our leaders outside of just gifts. And when I think about how I like to be appreciated, how I feel love, I always think about the 5 love languages. So I kind of want to use those today as we approach this idea of VBS leader appreciation. Let's look at each of the 5 love languages and talk about how we can show love and appreciation to our volunteers within the parameters of each love language. Now, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on physical touch. If you're familiar with the love languages, you know there are 5, and one of them is physical touch, and that is the way that some people give and receive love, but we are in COVID times, and so we're not going to spend a lot of time with physical touch because we can't really do it. So there's always room for a high five and a hug and other years, but you're probably not going to be doing that much this year. So we're going to kind of put that one in our back pocket for right now and move on to some other ones. And I want us to first take a minute and talk about acts of service. Now, I think as we kind of unpack these a little bit, you're going to realize that you're already doing some of these things, or you're going to hear an idea that you can easily implement in your church and in your Vacation Bible School that doesn't take a ton of time and that doesn't take a ton of money. So let's start with acts of service. One of the ways that you can serve your VBS volunteers, and in doing so show them that you appreciate them, is through providing childcare. Now, that seems like a little thing until you're a mama or a daddy with kids and you also want to be a VBS volunteer. If you have children, you know the constant struggle of trying to get those kids taken care of when mom and dad have to be at an important meeting. So if you're asking your volunteers to come up to a VBS training or a meeting, then an easy way that you can serve them is to provide childcare for their children. Maybe you're lucky enough to have a husband and a wife team. If you provide childcare, then you eliminate the conversation that happens within the walls of their home about who's going to stay home and who's going to go up to the church for the meeting. You have a greater likelihood of having your people at your meetings if you will provide them childcare. Also consider providing childcare for work days. Any day that you want your people up there decorating their rooms, maybe provide childcare on those days. Also for VBS itself. Now, some of you may already do this, but we know that VBS has a cutoff age, right? We have VBS here at First Baptist from 3 years old all the way up through the 6th grade. But what about those volunteers that have children younger than 3? Well, we provide volunteer-only babies through 2s or babies all the way up to 3s classes. We recruit for those classes just like we would for other VBS classes, and those teachers primarily have teachers' children in their room. It's a way that we can serve our teachers. It's a way that we can eliminate them trying to struggle to find childcare during the week of VBS for their babies. And it's a way that we can show them that we appreciate them. Hey, you're here. You're willing to teach with us. We want to serve you. We want to show you that we love you and appreciate you. So here, we'll take care of your kids. That is a simple way to appreciate your volunteers. We also can appreciate volunteers. We can serve them by providing them a meal at our meetings. Now, I'm going to speak during our time today about a lot of what we do, just because that's my experience. This is what we do. But we have one training in the late spring where we invite our lead teachers, the teachers that have committed to take the curriculum and break it down and sort of coordinate their team within their room. We invite those teachers up to our campus. We usually decorate a little bit in a big room, and we break down the Bible content for them. We go through the curriculum. We give them their curriculum and supply lists and all of those things at this meeting. So it's usually a couple hours long. Well, how do we get people there for a couple hour meeting on a Tuesday night in one of the busiest times of the year, especially if you have children? Well, we feed them. If you feed them, they will come, which it's been our experience that people have really appreciated having a meal. Now, I know that can get pricey, so don't feel like this has to be some gourmet meal or a really fine dining experience. A box from Chick-fil-A will be just fine, but it's just a way of letting your people know, hey, we realize we've plopped a meeting right in the middle of your weeknight in a busy season, and we want to appreciate you by offering you a meal. Come up here, don't have to cook for your family, sit down, eat, relax, and let us give you the Bible content and the things you'll need to prepare for VBS. It's just another way of showing that you appreciate them. You can also serve your leaders by providing them with a supply list and the majority of the materials they need. Now, this one comes from a personal experience that we've had here at First Baptist. We have to have about 250 volunteers to make our VBS happen here, and that's a lot of people. So that's a lot of recruiting. And as we begin to ask people in the early spring if they're interested in teaching Vacation Bible School all the way at the end of June, it's hard for them to kind of wrap their minds around that, especially when a lot of our volunteers are school teachers. Our VBS is during the day in the summertime, and these school teachers are so wrapped up in all they've got going on in school, it's hard for them to lend their minds to something more. And so we had a lot of people begin to say, it's just too much. I can't do that. I can't get you a supply list by June 1st because I'm just wrapping up this school year. So as we listened to the concerns from our leaders, we decided that we needed to serve them in some way. We needed to help them relieve some of the stress of this. And so what we did is we designated a team leader among our lead teachers for grade level breakdowns. And we asked that person to take the curriculum early, to go through it, to choose the activities. If you're familiar with Lifeway's material, you know they give you more activities than you need. So we asked this person to choose the activities that they think would work best within the time frame and the confines of the space and all of those things, and that they would then create a supply list. And then we have a resource coordinator at our church, but you could do any volunteer, and that person would go then fill the supply list so that on that lead teacher training, we hand them the curriculum that they've never seen before, but we also hand them a supply list that's already been created and their bag of supplies. Such a gift to teachers. It just alleviates the stress of planning and some of the burden of purchasing. Now, I know VBS budgets vary in all degrees, and so that might not be feasible. But what might be feasible is for you to take the material, go through it, and already have some of the supplies listed out for them. That just was a big chunk of time we noticed that people didn't have to devote to this. That since we've changed it, and these team leaders have done that on the front end, it's been easier, yes, for a lot of people. They're willing to volunteer. Oh, you're going to do that part for me? Awesome. And it's not me. I know as a VBS director, you're like, what am I going to have time to do that? You recruit volunteers. You recruit people to help you do that. And then they're able to work that out while you're planning other things. So that's a good way to serve your leaders. Another way, and this is one of my personal favorites, is through the teacher snack room. We provide a teacher break room, snack room in the general area of our VBS classrooms. And the way we have our VBS schedule designed is that there's a period of time, the bulk of the time actually, where the children are rotating through music and missions and crafts and snack. And so our teachers are able to kind of rotate in and out with their class, and they get to go visit the teacher snack room. Now, teacher snack room is full of all kind of wonderful goodies that are donated by volunteers, and we have a volunteer staff in that room completely separate from our other VBS staff that is keeping the snack stock, that are filling drinks and pouring drinks for teachers and helping you prepare your plate and all of those kind of things. And that is such a blessing to our leaders to know they have a place to go, they can get a little snack, something to drink, and they can rest for a few minutes. So building that into your schedule, building that into your room design and all of that is a great way to show your leaders that you appreciate them. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't have to cost anything. You might even assign a Sunday school class in your church Maybe you have a women's Sunday school class or a senior adult Sunday school class that they can't volunteer, but they're willing to serve in some way. And so you assign them Monday and Tuesday, and they fill the teacher snack room. That's always a good way for people to serve and for the leaders to feel appreciated. And finally, you might consider having a leader Bible study. A couple of years ago, what we did pre-COVID was we offered our adult VBS leaders, we offered them an adult VBS Bible study. Now, we didn't specifically follow the adult VBS curriculum that Lifeway provides, but we took the stories and we went a little deeper with them. We taught them to our teachers, and in doing so, we gave them a deeper look at the stories that then they were going to turn around and teach the week of VBS. A lot of times we hear people hesitant to teach Vacation Bible School because they can plan a game and they can do an activity and they can make a craft, but they're afraid they cannot adequately teach the scriptures to children. And so we want to remove any of that doubt and any of that insecurity that they might feel. And one way that we can do that is by equipping them with information, with deeper study in order to teach the scriptures to the kids. And so that's an idea. We put ours on a Wednesday night, but you could do a Wednesday night or a Sunday night, anytime that works best for your people. And people could come and go in and out of the meeting, in and out of the meetings as they needed to, but it's offered there. It's a way of showing, hey, we recognize that this is an area of insecurity for you, or a lot of people have voiced this as an area where they would like more help, and we want to meet that need. So that's another way under that acts of service umbrella. You're serving your leaders by offering them deeper study to the Bible study curriculum. Okay. So words of affirmation is another one of the 5 love languages, and it's one of the ones that I receive love from as well. But it's easy to offer words of affirmation to your VBS directors. These are probably the things that you're most likely to do, and these are probably the things on the list that are going to cost you the least amount of time and the least amount of money. One idea is a church commissioning for your VBS volunteers prior to the week of VBS. It would be a conversation you would need to have with your pastor, but consider blocking out of time a section of time in the worship service, the Sunday before Vacation Bible School, where you or your pastor would have all VBS volunteers stand, and you would speak words of affirmation over them, words of encouragement, words of challenge and charge, and then pray for them. What a blessing to those volunteers to know that, one, that they've been identified, that they've been recognized in that way, and then also they've been affirmed. But then there's something about a commissioning that helps you feel the weight of the mission that you're about to embark on. And so for those VBS volunteers to realize that they are just as important as a group of missionaries that we're sending overseas, that the work that they're about to do in the following week is just as necessary for the kingdom, just really helps them understand the sense of purpose, have a sense of purpose in what they're doing. And so I think that's a great way to affirm them and encourage them and challenge them even to, hey, the whole church is behind you, like we can do this. Another way to just affirm through words is to pop into the classroom and speak to your teachers. You know, you're so present in the planning of Vacation Bible School and in all of the meetings. You don't want to be a ghost during the week of. You don't want anybody to not to say they couldn't see you or never saw you. Okay, so pop into those classrooms. During an appropriate time, I would not suggest during the Bible study time when kids are supposed to be paying attention. It might be a little distracting, but if there's a game going on and you can kind of slip in under the radar and speak to those teachers and say, hey, I see you, I appreciate you, thank you for being here, do you need anything? They see that face-to-face, they have that face-to-face interaction, they hear your words of encouragement and affirmation, and for some, that's all they need. And so consider just, and maybe you can't get to every class every day. We have lots of classes, so that might not be possible with all that you have going on. But over the course of the week, if you can pop in once or twice, I know it would mean a lot to your volunteers, and that doesn't cost you a thing. Another thing that we can do to affirm is Vbs Pep Rally. This is something we've instituted over the course of the past few years, and it did not require us to develop a new time frame, or it doesn't cost us any money. And what we do is we take our last VBS full faculty meeting and we convert it to a Vbs Pep Rally instead. So whereas we would still give information, lots of information at those meetings, we've taken a time of that meeting to worship and to encourage our volunteers, to thank them for what they're doing, and to have a time of prayer over the week of VBS. And it is a super encouraging time And what our goal is that our workers would feel valued, and they would feel appreciated, and they would feel encouraged, and they would feel charged to walk out of that room equipped to teach Vacation Bible School, to love on those kids, and to share the gospel. And so it didn't take any resources to change that meeting over to something new, just some new ideas. And so you might want to consider turning one of your meetings into a VBS Pep Rally. Obviously, you're still going to have information that you have to give out, but also set aside some time to really affirm those workers and speak those words of encouragement. And finally, for words of affirmation, a handwritten note. I know this is a very traditional way to say thank you, and for some it's sort of a dying art, but we don't want it to die just yet, because so many people appreciate a handwritten note. Now, I told you before, we have about 250 VBS volunteers. That's a lot of handwritten notes. So if you are from a large church as well, you're hearing that going, there is no way that I have time to do that. Well, let me give you a few ideas of how that's practical for you. For years, I wrote my own notes. I would sit there for weeks after VBS and write them out, and I think that's still a great method. Maybe as you go throughout the planning process, the before, during, and after a VBS, that you choose workers to give a note to before, and some you give one during, and some you give one after, and so that everybody receives one, but you've spaced out the writing of them. Another idea is that maybe you want to recruit a small team of volunteers that are willing to write those notes for you. Now, you wouldn't put your name on them because it didn't come from you, but they could write a thank you note from the church. As a church member, hey, I appreciate you. I saw the way you served in VBS. I know the difference that you made, and I appreciate you. And I want for you to know that we see you. And I think that means so much. So it doesn't necessarily have to come from you. It's great if it does, but it could also come from your church family, because essentially when they're serving at VBS, they're serving the church, they're serving the kids. Okay, so the next area is quality time. And this one's kind of tricky to do with VBS volunteers because we don't get a lot of sit-down time with them, but I think it's important for people to know that you value their time. And so for those quality time folks, the people that receive love and appreciation through quality time, this is more like quality of time. We want to maximize our time in these meetings. We want to make sure we make the best use of their time so that they don't come up to a meeting, sit through an hour-and-a-half meeting, and go home irritated with us because that could have been an email, right? We want them to say, oh, that was so life-giving and helpful and equipping, and my time was maximized there. We came across this a couple of years ago. Several years ago, actually, we cut out one of our meetings. We realized by implementing a lead teacher training that we had done in our late spring, the one I mentioned where we have the meal, and then our VBS Pep Rally at the Sunday before Vacation Bible School, that we actually did not need a meeting that we had scheduled at the 1st of June. We were calling everybody together on a Sunday afternoon, which is a hard time to get people there anyway. And we were going over information that we'd either already told in the lead teacher training or they didn't really need till right before Vacation Bible School. And so we were wasting people's time, and I hate to admit that, but essentially that's what we were doing. And as we began to recognize that, and as attendance began to drop at some, and we realized we could be maximizing our time better. So we made the decision to cut out that meeting, to give the responsibility to communicate to the team to the lead teacher, and then use that last little bit of time for housekeeping and the VBS Pep Rally. And we have seen great results from that. People want to know that you value their time. Again, that doesn't cost anything. That doesn't really even cost your time. In fact, it gives you more time. Everybody could use a little more time on a Sunday afternoon to do some things for VBS. And then if you have a small group of VBS leaders, this might be more feasible than if you have a large group. But if you have a small group of VBS leaders, say 15 people on your VBS staff, consider taking them for coffee or lunch after VBS. Buy that coffee, buy that lunch, and then you could use that as a way to appreciate them, sit down with them, have that quality time, but also use it as a debriefing time. Talk about what went well, what could go better, what can we do next year, what changes should we make. Listen to your volunteers. I think that's huge. I think as people, as they volunteer and as they do it for years and years, they become experts in their own right, and they have opinions and they have ideas that we want to show them that we value. Everybody's going to have their grumblers, okay? I'm not saying that you need to heed every grumble that you hear, but those volunteers that truly want to help and build up, sit down with them and show that you value them and sit and listen to their ideas. And then you kind of feed that quality of time need, but you also appreciate them when you take their ideas and maybe you even implement them, or you consider them, or you pray with them. Everybody would appreciate that for sure. Okay, so that brings us to the obvious one, right? We've talked about acts of service, we've talked about words of affirmation, we've talked about quality time, and now gifts. Gifts is the one we automatically think of, but gifts also is what requires the most time and the most money from us. And so today I want us to talk a little bit about gifts in a little more detail, because surely if you're watching this, you're like, I want something to take away from this that I can just go print out on my computer and slap on an item I bought from the Dollar Tree and give out to my teachers. Well, there's going to be plenty of that, so don't worry about that. But also, let's talk a little bit about when to give gifts, okay? If we are offering gifts as leader appreciation for Vacation Bible School, we immediately think of during the week, right? But truly, we can be appreciating them with gifts all throughout the VBS process, and before in the planning, during in the actual week of VBS, and even after. We have what we call a preview party here most every year, and what that is, it's a sort of an opportunity for our church and people from outside our church, if they choose, to walk through. We use one of our larger rooms and decorate it with some VBS decorations, and we put the curriculum out on the tables, sample snacks, have the music playing, and people can walk through and get an idea of what Vacation Bible School is going to be this year. They can look through the curriculum, or they can see some of the crafts that we've made already, taste the snacks. And in doing that, we hope to entice them to be a part of Vacation Bible School. And as they do, as they come through, there's an area where we've designated for them to sign up if they were interested in teaching for Vacation Bible School. If they sign up that day, then there is a prize right there, a little treat of some sort. We usually put some sort of Lifeway, one of Lifeway's little teacher gifts. There's one, I'm going to show you in a minute, but I'll go ahead and show you. It's the magnifying glass. This year, one of these just in a little basket, and if they sign up, they take one. Maybe it's a pen, maybe it's a keychain, maybe it's a carabiner. Those have been a couple of years, our highlighter, or something with VBS logo on it, just as a little, hey, right now you signed up, so we want you to know we appreciate you. Take a little treat. We also give treats at the VBS leader training. This is the one where we serve the meal. Those are for the lead teachers in every room. So maybe we might have 25 people there for children and 25 people there for preschool. And so a 50 person group. So it's a little more feasible to give a bigger gift to those people. So generally during that time, we give them some sort of theme related gift, but we also want it to be practical. So a lot of times they get a pen or a notepad. I have a notepad in here. And we're going to talk about this in a minute with ways to give cute little gifts, but you could write on there, take note, I appreciate you, and have the notepad and the pen. Well, they're going to continue to use this notepad. It's not like this is kind of a pointless gift. That's very practical for them. But you could have that out on their table, or I saw a good idea this year where you could have a sand bucket and pail, or a pail and a shovel, and in that you put all kind of treats, some candies, some things like the notepad, a pen, maybe something they could use in their room. We want the gifts, while we want them to be fun and cute, of course, we want them to be practical so that people can use them. Also consider giving gifts during those meetings as door prizes. Maybe you splurge and purchase some really big decoration items that then when you have your VBS leader training, you have your VBS Pep Rally, you're able to draw a couple of names and really bless somebody with a huge backdrop, or with a visual pack, or with posters for their room, or some other type of decoration. This year in the VBS catalog, and we're going to talk about Lifeway's materials in just a second, but they have a really super cute little tent, and it is on page 49 of the catalog, but it's a little dig site tent. It's like a little pop-up tent. That would be so cute as a door prize, and you could bless somebody with that, and that's like a decoration for their room. So if you were going to do decorations, you'd want to give them at a meeting that was before VBS, where there's still time to decorate. You wouldn't want to give that during the week. That wouldn't make as much sense. But also consider gifts during the week. We normally give 3 gifts during the week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And those gifts usually consist of a small consumable, which we're going to talk about in just a minute and some examples here, and a note of some sort. Generally, the Friday gift is the biggest just because it's sort of like, let's go out with a bang, but we give one to every single volunteer. So we have to keep them small enough to where we can afford to give them to all 250 people. If you have fewer than that, you might can do a little bit of a bigger gift. But consider giving them something throughout the week just to encourage them, just to continue helping them get excited about what they're doing. And we don't want them to grow weary, and so we want to keep reminding them that, hey, we see you. Hey, I know it's Wednesday and you're tired, but here's a gift. Be encouraged. Keep going. And then, of course, at the end of the week or after, if that's a possibility for you, maybe you have a parent night, maybe you have a VBS leader appreciation dinner or party or something after VBS. Have a gift there, something they can take home, something they can enjoy. The party in and of itself would be a great idea if you got all your leaders back together and just had some cake and some snacks, or played some music and gave a report. How many salvations did you see at VBS this year? Let people give VBS leader testimonies, and why was that a good, why was this a good week for you? And how did you see the Lord move? And so there's all kinds of things you can do after VBS is over. So what gifts do we give? Well, like I said before, we want our gifts to be practical. We want them to be something purposeful that they can use, because people love to get gifts, but if it's just junk and you can't use it, then what are you going to do? Well, you're going to give it to your kid, or you're going to throw it away, and that's money we're spending, so let's make our money purposeful. It's always helpful to give out decorations or teaching tools, things that could be used in the classroom. So like the dig site tent, like a backdrop, like a visual pack. Now those are big, high ticket items. And so you have to kind of maybe use those as door prizes, like I said before. But maybe everybody can get a tablecloth with a little note that says, we know you've got VBS covered. Or everybody can get a CD that says, having you as VBS teacher is music to our ears. Or something, you can put a cute little note with it or not. You can just supply them with those things and let them know, hey, we know that you're going to have tables that you want to cover, or that you're going to need the music in your room. So here are all those things. You don't have to purchase them. We purchase them for you. Consider having theme-specific little happies, such as the folding magnifier that I showed you. Those can be found, lots of those kind of things can be found in the catalog between pages like 49 and 62. There are all kinds of things. I was going to flip to the one on page 62 to show you. There are all kind of little things, the magnifier, little bracelets, the kids' wraps that's actually on her head right there. Teachers love that kind of stuff. Anything they can use during the week of VBS, or in their classroom as a decoration, all of those things are good ideas to give. But you might want to consider giving some things only for the lead teachers as a little bit of an incentive for signing up, taking on a little more of the work, but also because you're going to be interacting with them truly more than anybody else. They would sign up at the preview party, they might get a small gift. Then again, when they come to the training for lead teachers, they're going to get a bigger gift. And then they're going to be the ones that have the opportunities to win the door prize, because for most of these teachers, they're the ones coordinating the decorations and all that kind of stuff in their room. So just consider maybe doing something a little bit even nicer for those lead teachers, because they're really taking on more of the commitment. All right, consumables. So here are your ideas for what you can give that can be consumed with a cute little saying attached to them. Now, I've got some things in my basket over here. We're going to talk through some of these things, but there is no wrong answer. I'm going to tell you that the internet is full of ideas. Closer it gets to VBS, the internet is full of ideas of cute little sayings you can put on things, but always consider if what you're giving is purposeful, okay? So one of my favorite things that I found so far are these little glass containers. I found them at Dollar General, but Dollar Tree would have them too. They could be plastic. These are glass, so you wouldn't want to give them to kids. But adults is fine, and they're filled with chocolate rocks. This would be a theme-related consumable because, of course, we're talking about digging. And what do you find when you dig? You find rocks. But you don't find chocolate rocks. So this is a fun little treat, a little sweet treat that you could have. You could put a note on it or a little label around it. You could tie a little note with a string around the lid that said, "You rock," or "Thanks for digging into God's Word with the kids this week." Anything like that is a good option. And I think they're super cute. This would delight me if I was a volunteer. Okay. You also might consider, if you're still looking for consumables, ring pops. Not every adult's going to love a sucker, but they could certainly pass it on to a kid if they didn't want it, with a label on it that said, "You're a jewel for serving at VBS." This is another little theme-related item, because when you dig, sometimes in pan, you find jewels deep down. So a ring pop is always a good option for "You're a jewel for serving at VBS." Okay, another idea would be to take a little sand shovel. I couldn't find one because it's not quite summer here yet, but you could take a little sand shovel and put it down in a little Ziploc bag or cellophane bag with some candy, tie a little ribbon around it, and then a note or a label on it that says something like, "We dig you," or "Thanks for digging into God's Word this week." That's a good idea. That's still a theme-related thing. Lifeway does have some ideas that are in their administrative guide. If you have that guide and you put in the disc, you can find some leader appreciation ideas that are listed out on a paper, and then they also give you some freebies to print. So I printed a few of those to show you. We already looked at our magnifying glass earlier, but it's got a little tag on the back that says, "Thanks for magnifying God's Word with our kids during VBS." It's got the little Destination Dig logo on it. You probably could most definitely find these cheaper, Amazon in bulk or dollar store or something like that, but you could still get a magnifying glass, and teachers could use this in their room during the week. There's going to be some activities that could use a magnifying glass, or for decoration, or they could come up with a fun little game. So that's actually a helpful one. And then another one that they had that was cute was Tootsie Rolls. Thanks for rolling up your sleeves to lead kids to discover the truths found in God's Word. So rolling, Tootsie Roll. If it was me and I was buying for lots of volunteers, I'd buy much smaller than this, but I bought a big one. This came from Five Below, if you've got one of those near you. Another idea that they had was nuts, or a Nutrageous candy bar that says, "VBS would be nuts without you." And this is not necessarily theme specific. You could use this every year, because don't we all know that that's true? VBS would be nuts without volunteers. So give them a small pack of nuts. I know for sure you could order pocket size, little tiny size packs of mixed nuts or things. Find those at Sam's or Amazon, or if you have fewer volunteers, you could just grab, this was like $1 from Dollar General. Okay. Then you could do a Nutrageous candy bar. That's another option there. Pop Rocks would be along the same lines as Chocolate Rocks. You rock, or "Thanks for making VBS rock." And then, of course, another Lifeway product that we looked at a few minutes ago was the notepad. But again, consider writing on the front page, "Take note, we think you're great." "Take note, we appreciate you, we love you," whatever it is. This is a practical gift. This is a Lifeway thing. You can find some more of their things in the catalog. Lots of little things to buy there that you could provide for your volunteers. Okay, so then we have some non-thematic things that could work for any VBS, or if you're not doing Destination Dig, these could work as well. Any kind of sweet, any kind of candy or chocolate, you could say, "VBS is sweet and so are you," or "Thanks for helping make VBS so sweet." Trail mix, you would probably want to get a much smaller thing of trail mix than this, but you could say, "VBS is better with you in the mix," and trail mix is a fun little snack. Most people like it. Extra gum. The Extra brand of gum is always a good one, because you can slap a label on that and say, "Thanks for going the extra mile," or "You are extra special," or "Thanks for making VBS extra special." And you've got, that's a good little consumable. Everybody's gonna like the gum. Mentos or peppermint sticks. You were meant to teach VBS with the MINT. You were meant to teach VBS, or you and VBS were meant to be, or whatever cute little saying. People are always going to use mints, so that's a good idea too. Let me see. I think. Oh no. Oh, I forgot my Quest bar. This is another one of Lifeway's cute little ideas that says, "Thanks for taking our kids on a quest to unearth God's truth." And this is a good one, because Quest is actually a protein bar, so you're giving your teachers a little boost, little snack, and this one's chocolate chip cookie dough, so delicious. Okay. So when you're giving gifts, when you're giving consumables, but also other decoration and teaching tools, think practical over Pinterest perfection. We love Pinterest. It gives lots of good ideas, but don't kill yourself trying to make some super cute, elaborate gift for 250 volunteers. Also consider getting a team of volunteers together to assemble these things for you. We do that. We have these ideas ahead of time. We have everything ready, and then we have a few volunteers that come up and they assemble them all. So they're ready to pass out before, during, and after VBS. We have them all done, and we're not trying to do them in the craziness that is the week of Vacation Bible School. Remember that people want something they can use. They don't want purposeless junk. And not to sound blunt, but they don't. And they want something that you can, that shows they're appreciated, but also that they can consume or they can use. Decide what you want to do for appreciation beforehand. That's going to be the biggest tip I can give you, is plan to appreciate. Because if you don't, that is going to fall through the cracks. That's going to be the thing that you let kind of fall by the wayside. So be proactive rather than reactive. Recruit volunteers ahead of VBS to assemble the gifts, like I said, and write notes. If you plan to appreciate, you will be more successful. And if you won't let this necessary practice kind of slip through the cracks, fall by the wayside. You want to plan to do it, but remember, it doesn't just have to be gifts. It can be lots of things, lots of ways to appreciate. If you're a VBS director, then you've most likely been a VBS volunteer, and so you know how great it feels to be appreciated and how not so great it feels to feel like you're not appreciated. Consider, when you're planning leader appreciation, consider your budget and time restraints. We always want to be mindful and good stewards of both of those things. Remember that gifts aren't the only way to appreciate. I've said that lots of times now. Make a plan, make time, and follow through. A VBS teacher that knows that he or she is appreciated will be a VBS teacher again next year.